Want to be a topper in MBA entrance exams? Join BYJU'S Exam Prep, CAT and MBA YouTube channel and watch serial 99 percentilers teaching you the tips and tricks.
Hi guys, a very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to another session from BYJU'S Exam Prep. In this session, my friends, I'm going to talk about the second biggest exam as far as MBA is concerned. The exam called XAT. This exam happens to be a very big one right after the CAT exam. It goes without saying that CAT, yes, is the biggest MBA exam, but XAT is not far away. Almost every student who's serious about getting into a good B school, who prepare for CAT, end up writing XAT. Okay, so we're going to take a look at what is this exam and how is it different from CAT, what could be the differences, and is it enough for you to prepare for one exam to overcome the other exam. So let's take a look at all of this in today's session. Right, so talking about the colleges that accept XAT, there are about 150 colleges that accept XAT, out of which the top ones obviously happens to be your XLRI, Jamshedpur, the best. In fact, it's going to be, or rather it has been ranked in the top 5 business schools in the country for as long as I can remember. It is definitely on at par with the other IIMs that you can think of. It has got a name of its own. XLRI commands a very well-deserved respect in the entire industry. Students consider themselves lucky to be a part of this institute. Right? It has been able to train and churn out a lot of really famous alumni. And yes, it goes without saying that you get into this XLRI, probably your the career for the next 20 years is more or less set. Now we have other colleges which also accept the score from XAT, and the other colleges are listed over here. Now this is not exhaustive. As I said, there are 150 colleges. Obviously I don't have space to write down all of them, but I have mentioned the top colleges that are there in my mind. You have SP Jain, you have MICA, XIM Bhubaneswar, Great Lakes, Simsri, Tapmi and IMT Ghaziabad being some of the top colleges that accept the XAT score. If you remember, SP Jain, I've already mentioned that takes CAT as well as your XAT score, right? So if you're looking at getting into SP Jain, you can apply it through CAT or through XAT depending upon which score goes well for you. So that's the flexibility they allow. Let's go ahead and take a look at what are the dates that are associated, what are the important parts of these dates that you want to take a look at. Always, like CAT happens on the last Sunday of November, it's a tradition, you can actually call it as a custom, that every first Sunday of January, Sunday of January is reserved for XAT. So these exams, they do this so that there is no clash. They don't have to talk to each other about, okay, is my exam clashing with your exam? Because these are known dates. So last Sunday, first Sunday, all of this, if it is fixed, there is no question of them changing it and then having a clash. So that is the reason why these institutes stick to the timetable that way. So based on that, you can expect the first Sunday of 2023 to be your XAT exam, because the first Sunday happens to be on 1st January itself. Right? So January 1st, 2023 is going to be a XAT exam. I keep talking about CAT, but yes, it's a XAT exam. The notification is not yet out. The notification will be out in the next month and a half. And the registrations will start from August and they will continue till December. So the registration will be for about 3 months, August, September, October, November, in fact 4 or 5 months, not even 3 months. They have a huge window for registrations. And yes, as I mentioned, it will start in the month of August, but the notification will be out in the month of July. Your admit card typically will come out in the last 10 days of December. So 24th, 25th, that's the timeline that you can look at. Ideally, it will be about 1.5 weeks before your exam. So last year, I believe the exam was on 2nd, if I'm not mistaken, 2nd of January or 3rd of January, something like that. And the admit card was released on 24th. So this year you can expect 1 or 2 days a little bit advanced. So it could be on around 21st or so would be your admit card release. And the good part is the results are given out in about 2 weeks. So by 13 to 14 days, they will give out the result. In fact, in the first 7 to 8 days, they will give out the answer key. In fact, that's a good part I like about CAT as well as XAT. These exams give out your response sheet. So what is this response sheet? So all these are computer-based tests, right? So you sit in front of a computer, you mark your answer, then finally you submit the test. So a response sheet is basically a soft copy of every question and what did you mark? Is it correct or is it wrong? So they will give you what is your response to a particular question, and then simultaneously they will also say whether, they will just say what could be the correct answer. They will always say something called as possible response, possible answer. They use this word very interestingly. So the way they will give out is question number 1. This entire question will be here. You'll have 5 options. In XAT it is 5 options, and they will show that, okay, you have marked option A, and they will say possible answer. Possible answer could be answer B, which means you've got it wrong. They use the word possibility because they keep something called as a window open for raising objection. So objection is basically when you're convinced that a question is wrong. Whether in CAT or XAT, there is always going to be an objection window where there will be about a week's time given for you to raise, not even week, in this case it will be 2-3 days time only, where they'll allow students to raise certain questions which they feel should be. So if you feel that this answer option is A, but the institute is saying it is B, and you're convinced that A has to be true, B is wrong, then you can raise an objection. Or if you feel that a question is wrongly framed, or the question's meaning was something else and the answer is something else, then you can raise objection. So you will have to pay some nominal amount of money per objection that you are raising, and you can raise objection. So all this happens in the first 7 to 8 days. And after that, once the objection window is closed, once they ensure that all objections are taken care of, finally within 14 to 15 days, they will come out with their exam, the final results. So what marks do you get, what score you got, what percentile you got. So all that will be out in about 2 to 2.5 weeks. So you can look at 14 to 18 days depending upon whether there were too many objections or not, whether too many issues or not. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens in this particular exam. What are the unique features of this exam? Now, this exam of XAT is a 2-part exam. You have something called as Part A and Part B. Now, Part A is basically your aptitude part, whereas Part B is the non-aptitude part. I'm going to talk a little bit about both the parts. Now, in this Part A, this is typically like your any competitive exam where you have maths, you have logic, you have English, but you have an extra section called decision making. I'll talk a little bit about decision making too sometime later. But yes, Part A is typically what you are aware of, what you know when you're preparing for any MBA entrance exam. Part B, however, has 2 types of questions. One is GK and the other is you have to write an essay. Right, so I'll speak a little bit about this Part A and Part B also, but briefly please understand that XAT has 2 parts in the exam, Part A and Part B. Part A is basically your aptitude based questions, Part B is your GK and essay writing. Okay, now Part A comes with a time limit of 165 minutes. Okay, it comes with a time limit of 165 minutes. There is no sectional time limit. The entire paper is open for you. You can answer any question in this 165 minutes, and 25 minutes for your Part B. Okay, 25 minutes for your Part B. So that is basically what you have in your XAT exam. Now, as I said, Part 1 is aptitude based, Part 2 is GK plus essay. There is the unique feature about, another unique feature about this particular exam is they will give you negative marking in the Part A for unattempted questions also. That's interesting. So I'll explain a little bit about what do I mean by this. Now, normally what is expected, you will get +3 marks or you'll get +4 marks if it is correct. If it is wrong, you'll get -1 or probably -1 or -1, something like this. That's typically what you expect. And if it is unattempted, you will not lose any marks, 0 and 0. But in XAT, it is +1 mark for correct. You will get 1 mark for correct answer. You will get, for wrong answer, you will get -1/4 mark. 0.25, 1/4 mark negative, and for unattempted question also there is some negative mark. Now it means the exam does not, or it is going to penalize you for not answering all the questions. However, they are not very mean. What they have done is they will say, or they make the statement that up to all, out of all the questions that come in your part A, you can leave 8 questions unattempted. You can leave 8 questions unattempted. So in fact, part A last year was for 75 questions. I'll give you the breakup also. We have that coming up. But part A totally had 75 questions. In these 75 questions, you can maximum leave 8. After 8, that is, if you left, let's say you left totally 15 questions, you attempted 60, and 15 were left unattempted. Now in these 15, 8 of them will be let go, no problem. 8 of them will get 0. So the remaining 7, there are remaining 7, these will attract a penalty, which is a negative mark. Now the negative mark here is not as high as the wrong mark. It is not 0.25. It's not that high. But yes, the negative mark here is minus 0.1. The negative mark is minus 0.1. So actually it is very, very small. Whereas 25%, that is 1/4 of a mark, is quite high. Here it is 0.1. So you can leave 2 questions and still get less than, you can get a score which is not equivalent to getting 1 wrong. That's the way in which the negative marking works. Okay, so that's unique about this. I haven't come across this, idea in any other MBA entrance exam where they say that if you leave the questions, then I'll penalize you. That's something which is extremely unique to this particular exam. Okay, so what is the exam structure? Part 1. So this is the basic structure for the exam. We have 3 sections. Like many MBA entrance exams, there are 3 standard sections here. I already mentioned there is no sectional time limit. So you have a total of 165 questions in 165 minutes for 75 questions. Now the breakup is English and logical reasoning are combined into one section, and there are 26 questions here. Decision making. Now I'll speak a little bit about this. This is not usually known to students. It's a completely new area. Not many MBA entrance exams check this part. Decision making, it's actually business decision making and analytical reasoning together will be the second section, and there will be 21 questions coming from this. And finally, the quant is combined with data interpretation, and you will be getting around 28 questions. So that's what happened last year. The thing about XAT is it keeps changing year to year. There is no guarantee. They'll tell you beforehand how many questions are expected. It's not that it's always going to be a surprise, but yes, last 2 years, if I remember, they kept it at 75 and 75, but there is no guarantee that it will be 75 even for this year, that is for 2023 coming up. But yes, whatever it is, the good thing about XAT is they announce it beforehand and they stick to it. So that's the good part. So the quant and data interpretation together are 28 questions. Okay, there will be 5 options each. Unlike CAT, it is 4 in CAT. In XAT, it is 5 options. So guessing becomes that much more difficult. The probability of your getting something right is reduced because there is an extra option available for you. As I mentioned, it is +1 for a correct question, or a question attempted correctly. I hope you guys know the difference. A correct question means I'm only talking about whether the question is correct or not. What I meant is a question attempted correctly. And minus 0.25, that is minus 1/4 for a question attempted wrongly. And after 8 questions left unattempted, the 9th question onwards, every question will have -1/10, that is negative 0.1 marks. So this is the marking scheme for the exam. Now, if you ask me, should you be worried about this? My answer is your decision to answer a question or not should not be affected by the negative mark. Okay, so please don't force yourself to answer something just because there is a negative mark. Okay, so my advice to you, when you're writing your XAT exam, please keep this in mind. Don't force yourself to answer a question if you don't know the answer simply because you are getting minus 0.1. It is not worth it, because if you get it wrong, because remember there are 5 options, which means there are 4 wrong and only 1 correct. So if you're guessing, the probability of you getting it right is only 1 by 5, which means you can get 1/5 expectation of a mark. So your expected mark, if you want to calculate, those of you who know probability, your expected score is 1/5 if you attempt it correctly, right? If you attempt it wrongly, it is 4 by 5 into 1 by 4, which is minus 1 by 5. Because there are 4 options which are wrong. So 4 by 5 is the probability of you getting something wrong if you're blindly guessing it. And yes, if you guess it wrongly, you'll be getting 1/4 negative. So that's basically minus 1/5 wrong. And if you leave it unattempted, it is guaranteed minus 0.1. It is guaranteed minus 0.1. So if you notice, if you attempt something blindly, you have a higher chance. So this is how much? Minus 0.2. So the chance of you getting negative mark is minus 0.2, whereas it is a confirmed minus 0.1 if you leave it. So I would still say go with this compared to leaving something, forcing yourself to attempt it. But yes, there is a possibility of getting it right also. But again, as I said, if you are a student who's worried about your cutoffs, I would recommend don't take the chance. Okay. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. Yes, one thing about this exam is it has sectional cutoffs. It has sectional cutoffs. While there is no sectional time limit, you will be required to get a minimum score in each of these 3 sections, right? So please keep that in mind. The second part, that is the part 2 of the XAT exam, as I mentioned earlier, is GK plus an essay. Now this is quite interesting. The GK, there are going to be 25 questions in GK, and there is no score for these 25 questions. There are no marks. Now you can always question, or you can always ask, if there are no marks, why is this put up? In my assumption, again, there's no clarity, there's no guarantee that what I'm saying is correct, but my assumption based on what I understand is, it gives them an understanding of what is your ability to read, especially if you are shortlisted. They will know whether you're a person who's well read or not. So imagine I'm a professor sitting there to take an interview. A student is coming in front of me. I will get an extra parameter saying that what is your score in GK. If your score in GK is 0, I'm basically knowing that this guy does not know anything about GK, or is not following current affairs, because mostly the questions that come in this paper are current affairs, not static GK. So they know that you do not know, or you have not followed anything at all. And they would, they can tailor their interview accordingly. If they want to really mess up with you, they can, start talking about it. If they don't want to, if they want to be nice to you, they can avoid that. It's all up to them. So that is my belief, what they will be using the score in the GK for. Otherwise, the score in the GK is not utilized in your getting an admit card, in you getting a interview call. Please keep that in mind. Now, there is also one essay that you have to write. You will be given 2 topics, and you're supposed to write an essay of not more than 300 words on one of the topics. You have to choose one. They're nice people. They are giving you 2 options. You have to choose one of the 2, and ideally this will be on what has been happening lately in the last few months, or last 1 or 2 months, whatever has been happening. They could frame a statement out of it and ask you to write your thoughts or your views or your essay on it. So typically keep following the current affairs, guys, because based on that your essay could be coming up for you. And yes, this essay also has no marks per se, not at the beginning. In fact, it will not even be evaluated till you are shortlisted. So there are about 70,000 people or so who write this exam. They will not correct the essay. Guys, remember, essay correction has to be done manually, whereas MCQ answering can be done automatically by the computer. It's obviously right. This question, option A, you marked, the computer can be trained to know whether it's right or false. You can make a code saying that if it is A, it is correct, if it is B, it is wrong, and so on and so forth. But essay is a bit more subjective. So they will not spend time unnecessarily evaluating the essay of everybody. Only those who get calls for the interview, their essays will be shortlisted and the essay has a weightage in your final selection. So please keep that in mind and write your essay properly because it has some weightage in the final selection. We're going to talk about that in the selection criteria about the XAT process sometime in some other video. Today it's only about the XAT exam, not the entire process. Okay. So that's as far as your exam structure 2 goes in. There's a total of 25 minutes. Typically students finish off the entire GK in 5 minutes and they spend the remaining 20 minutes in writing the essay. And yes, not many of you are used to typing fast, not many of you are used to thinking in structured terms. What matters here is how is your structure of thinking and how are you expressing it. So you need to practice writing few essays. The best thing that I can talk about essays is you can just Google up or go to BYJU'S website. We have listed out the last few years essay topics. Try to go through them and try to see if you can write 250 words to 300 words on your own without grammatical errors. Guys, you're all used to typing in a Gmail, typing in a Word doc where you will be corrected for spelling errors, you will be corrected for grammatical errors. Here, when you type out, nothing of that sort will be happening. No spell check will be available for you, no grammar check will be available for you. You will have to do that on your own. So it's a bit kind of a handicap for all of you who are used to using these tools. You have Grammarly and all, which is helping you every day correcting and making your simple mails come out better. But unfortunately, those things will not help you here anymore. So please keep that in mind. The paper pattern is based on what happened in the last 1 or 2 years. I've picked up and put it over here. So the first part is your English. In the English, you can expect a total of, in fact, I mentioned there's going to be a total of 26 questions in the English section. So you have RCs, 4 RCs of 3 questions each. So that's 4 3s are 12 questions. Now last year they also gave poems. They gave 2 poems, and trust me, these poems were at least one poem was confusing. You couldn't even make head or tail of what did the author want to talk about or the poet want to talk about. What is he talking about in the first place? Right? So they give out from very old texts, from very old works of famous authors. They pick some extract out of it and make they give a poem. They search. There's no dearth of poems written, right? So they give something like that. Without knowing the context, it's very difficult to understand what the poem meant. And based on that, you'll be getting around 2 to 3 questions. It's like an RC, but not a typical passage for you. It is in all purposes, it is an RC. But yeah, it is not reading a passage per se. You are going to read a poem, and it's reading poems is not as easy as reading a passage, if you ask me. Then of course there'll be fill in the blanks. What could be the right word to fill the blank. So they'll give you a passage, a small passage of 2-3 sentences, and 1 or 2 fill in the blanks will be there, or 2 or 3 fill in the blanks will be there. And they'll say what could be the correct words to go there, and they will give you words which you will have to fit based on the context of the statement given to you. So that's the kind of questions you're looking at in fill in the blanks. Then there is an interesting area called critical reasoning, which does not come too much into CAT. So if you're preparing for XAT, you have to prepare for critical reasoning. But yeah, some form of critical reasoning comes in when you are preparing for CAT. It's like strengthening of an argument, weakening of an argument in the passage. Which of the following, if true, would strengthen the author's point of view? So those kind of questions you would have prepared, but that comes here on an independent topic. So they'll give you an independent passage here and 1 question based on this passage. It's a small passage, it's not going to be long, but yes, based on this passage, the questions will be based on this. So which of the following, if true, would make the passage correct, or which of the following, if true, would say that the passage is incorrect, or something like that. So it's not straightforward. You will have to think through it and then come to the answer. So that's basically your critical reasoning. Around 4 to 5 questions come from that area. Grammar, of course, 2 to 3. So they would give you a statement with some preposition use and say which of the following 4. So they'll give you 4 statements. So this is a question and I have 4 options, A, B, C, D. The question says which of the following 4 options is in which of the following 4 options the preposition has been used incorrectly, as an example. So they'll give you 4 statements where prepositions have been used in one of the statements, and actually there's 5 statements, right? So this is that. So 5 statements will be given to you where one of the statements, the preposition will be used wrongly and they will say which one is it. So you need to understand how prepositions are to be used for you to understand and get the correct answer. So that's how grammar has been tested for you. You'll be having around 2 to 3 questions coming to you from grammar. Okay, and parajumbles, 1 or 2 questions coming from parajumbles. Again, the weightage for parajumbles is not that high, but yes, you can get 1 or 2. The good thing about parajumbles is they come with options, so you can form links, you can eliminate options, you can do it. It's not going to be as difficult as the parajumbles in CAT where there are no options available. So yes, so if you notice the big difference between CAT and XAT in my opinion is XAT is a much more well-rounded paper. They're asking you grammar, they're asking you vocab. Vocab basically is about parajumbles also to an extent. They're asking you fill in the blanks, which you cannot fill in the blanks without knowing the meaning of the words. And the words will not be very easy for you. So they are talking about your typical traditional vocab here, they're talking about grammar, they're talking about critical reasoning, they're talking about RC. So it's a very well balanced paper in my opinion, whereas CAT just looks at RC and some part of verbal logic. It does not get, there's no shred of grammar at all. But yeah, if you ask me, do you need grammar? I really don't know. I'm not a fan of grammar, but yes, if you ask me from the English perspective, this paper is much more well-rounded from CAT's perspective. But when you're talking about the usefulness of grammar in your day-to-day life, you have enough tools today. If you know basically how to form a structure, small differences there or small mistakes there are anyway corrected by your tools available. So you don't need to be a stud in grammar today. I'm sure if you listen to my video clearly, you would be able to figure out at least, you'd be able to point out at least 7, 8, 10 grammatical errors for sure. But then I am able to do my job correctly, I'm able to convey what I want to, so it's not really hindering me in my job, right? So well, that's my take on grammar. But anyway, let's move on. Talking about the second section, which is decision making. It is called business decision making. There will be 7 passages of 3 questions each. This has been standard last year and the last before year. There were 21 questions. 7 into 3 is 21, and this is how your decision making section comes to you. Now what happens in this decision making? How is it different? Now this is one such exam where this section is asked, and an entire section is asked on this knowledge of yours called decision making ability. This is not there in many other, in fact I don't think this is there in any other MBA entrance exam, barring probably SNAP, which asks 1 or 2 questions based on this. But yes, what happens in this section exactly? You will be given real life scenarios, or at least scenarios which could be real life. Now I'm not saying that this really happened somewhere, but yeah, they'll give you life scenarios. This is not a hypothetical calculation for you. This is not a hypothetical passage given to you. It is basically day-to-day events you could encounter, or if not you, somebody could have encountered. Okay, the questions will be on if this scenario has happened or is happening and you are in this place, what would be the best approach taken by you? If you have to help a person who is in this scenario, what would be the best approach or best advice you could give him? And there will be 5 options, 5 different advice that you can give to the person, and you have to select what is the best advice. Or they can also give you saying that, okay, this has happened to you. 5 options are there, rate them in the increasing or decreasing order of appropriateness. Which of this would be the best advice, second best, third best, and so on and so forth, or the other way around. So the question here is not maths, the question here is not logic, the question here is not your data interpretation or your English prowess. The question here is, can you judge things correctly? Can you understand what exactly is the problem that is mentioned there, and therefore what should be the correct answer to it? Here, judgment is what they are trying to look at. Judgment based on your understanding of what is the issue that is being pointed out. Because what happens in your day-to-day corporate life is, you know that there is an issue, but you don't know exactly what is causing the issue. And if you don't know what is causing the issue, you are, it's like prescribing a wrong medicine for a stomachache. I know my stomach is paining, but if I don't know what it is, if it is an appendicitis because of which my stomach is paining, I have to get an operation, a surgery done. If it is because of just a gastric trouble, I just take an Eno and it's gone. So I should know before I take some medication or before a doctor prescribes some medication to me, he or I should know what exactly is causing it. Otherwise, I will be getting a wrong prescription and I'll be doing something else which will actually be very detrimental to my health, which is what happens in the corporate life too. When you're making a decision, you should know, is it going to really address the problem, which means you should first identify the problem perfectly. That is what they're trying to test over here, which is called as decision making. I really love this section because this comes closest to judging whether a person can become a manager or not, whether the person has the ability to think through, to isolate what exactly is the issue. Okay, so that's something very unique I find about this particular section. In fact, I've put one example for you, my friends. You can take a look at it. See this, look at this question. This is typically how a question comes. There will be some data given to you, but again, you don't need to calculate anything. It's not a calculation question at all. It's a question based on this information given to you and what should be the course of action. So I'll give you about 60 seconds to go through this, take a look at it, understand and try to see what the answer could be. Give me what could be the potential answer according to you. Okay, I'll give you about 60 seconds to 90 seconds. So let's see how many of you can get it right. I think you can just reduce my, or can reduce my, you can take out my image for about 1 minute. It's covering the PPT. Gone through it. Here basically the issue is he was selling about 300 to 400 dosas and now he moved into the premises of the hospital and he's able to sell only half or less than half of that. What could be the reason? One of the changes that you should observe is his price has increased from 25 and 40 to 40 and 60, and that led, in fact that could be one of the reasons that his the customers have fallen or stopped coming to him because the price has gone up. Now look at the options. Here you're selecting the best of the 5 options available to you. It's not about what is the perfect answer. There's nothing called as perfect answer. You're supposed to select what is the best option out of these 5. If you look at option number 4, increase price of all the food items will be 50 and introduce a new Szechuan dosa at 200 a plate. Now why will this even help me? Straight away I can say this is not my answer. I am, first of all, I have already increased my price and I've moved into the premises and my loyal customers have stopped coming to me. At least some of them, the clientele is mostly the same, so those people are coming, but a lot of others who could have come to me are not coming to me. There could be 2 reasons. One is it was outside the hospital, so outsiders used to come to me. Second is hospital staff themselves used to come to me, but now they're finding my price to be high, so they're not coming to me. This option 4 does not address either of the concerns, so straight away it is not a problem, or it should not be my answer. Similarly, if you look at third and second is not your answer, because without having a South Indian meal, people used to come to you. Why should you introduce something new if it is not going to solve a potential problem or the reason for a problem? Similarly with North India, a North Indian dish, you used to have people coming to you even before you had North Indian cuisine. So why do you want to start something new? So definitely 2, 3 and 4 are ruled out. Now you're left with options 1 and options 5. Now reduce the price by 20% for hospital staff could be possibly fine, but increase the price by 50% for all others. Now why should I do this? Rather, what I will do is look at 1 and 5. 1 and 5 are catering to the same problem, which is a price problem, but the way 1 is better, the reason why 1 is better is, I am saying, look, if you want something cheap, you will have something cheap. But if you want more variety, I will give you, add more dosas at higher variety. So option 1 covers 5 and more than that. So I'm not saying 5 is bad, but I will just definitely say 1 is better, because option 1 is also taking care of the pricing issue. So if somebody wants a dosa at 25 rupees, he will get the dosa, which potentially somebody from 5th option will also get. However, somebody outside wants to come, he will get 2 options for me. He will get a price at 25 and 40. He will get more higher variety dosas at a higher price. Whereas in this option, the outside person wants to come to me at a cheaper price, he will not get. So he will not come to me. So that option is ruled out. So that is the reason why I would say between 1 and 5, I would go with 5 and not 1 and not 5. So if you notice here, there is no proof that I can say this is the best option. Hence proved, unlike in maths or logic or in DI. What happens here is you're looking at what could be as a comparison, which option should be better, which option should be logically better than the other, therefore eliminate the other and then stick to whatever you think is better. That's typically how these kind of questions come across in decision making. So yes, the last part is quant and DI. So in quant and DI you have, okay, this is not DM. So in quant and DI you had arithmetic 3 to 4. If you notice, the weightage for arithmetic is not that high in XAT, but you have numbers very highly rated, algebra, geometry, permutation and combination and probability comes to you 2 to 3 questions. So they are again as a paper, they are balanced. But yes, they, in my opinion, they ask a little bit higher on the geometry as well as algebra side put together, because you have a total of 28 questions only. And you're talking about 7 to 8 questions coming from 1/4 of these questions coming from algebra and geometry, which typically, if you ask me, a student might not even use in their life after an MBA. But then yes, if you're asking me, am I testing maths as a whole, at least the aptitude part of math? Yes, this does a better job of testing aptitude part of math as a whole compared to what CAT does, because CAT is heavy on arithmetic for sure. Whereas here, it's a more balanced paper. Right, so that's basically how this paper has been. If you're looking at the cutoffs for XLRI, these are the cutoffs, my friends. This is officially published on the website of XLRI. These are the percentiles. English cutoff for male is 75, decision making is 72, and quant is 80. Overall cutoff was last year for 2022 XAT. By the way, the exam always happens in the year of the admission. So XAT 2022 happened in January, it's over. So that overall cutoff was 93. So the next year admission, whereas we call it as CAT 22, it will be XAT 23. Because CAT happens in 22, XAT happens in 23, nothing else. Female, it's a little bit lower on VALR, which is 72. Decision making is 72 again, and quant is 75, and overall is 90. If you're looking at the breakup between engineers and non-engineers, a lot of non-engineers out there worried about it. The requirement will be 92 for male engineers, 90 for female engineers, male non-engineers will be 90, and female non-engineers will be around 87. So this is basically, so this is for BM, that is business management. So they have 2 programs in XLRI, if you're not aware of it. Business management and human resources management. For human resource management, this is the cutoff, and for business management program, this is the cutoff. HR program in XLRI is one of the most coveted programs for students who want to specialize in HR. It goes without saying that this will be in the top 1 or 2 ranked colleges for HR. In BM, it is ranked in the top 5 for sure. It is at par with any of the other IIMs that you can think of. They also take admissions through GMAT. For BM, the cutoff will be about 730, and for HRM, the cutoff would be 700 in your GMAT exam. Well, my friends, that's all about your exam called XAT, that is Xavier's Aptitude Test to get into a college called XLRI and a host of other colleges that I've spoken about. I hope this gave you a bit of information on what to expect from the exam and probably will help you in planning your preparation over the next few months. So do follow us, like us. We are there in a lot of social media channels, and if you are interested in preparing for any of these programs, do call us on this number. We are always there to help you guys out in your training as well as in your journey for your MBA. Right? So please subscribe to us and be with us on all these channels. Thank you and see you in the next one.